Hello everyone. So today we will continue our lectures that were focused on radiation from last 3-4 lectures. Okay, until now we have seen what are radiations, what are thermal radiations, then we have learned about black body radiations. Now the question is how to measure radiation, how to measure temperature of it. So today's lecture is focusing on the measurement techniques for the radiation or temperature. So the title of today's lecture is pyrometer and pyrheliometer. These are two devices which are used to measure temperature and radiation respectively. Okay, so as the title shows, the lecture objective is to understand the working and construction of various types of pyrometers and pyrheliometers. So the outcome is quite obvious. After attending this lecture, you will be able to learn about the devices which are used to measure temperatures as well as radiation. Okay, and by measuring radiation, after all, you can measure the temperature of radiating body also. So the content of today's lecture is divided into several topics. The first topic is related to pyrometer, and this is further divided into subtopic, that is optical pyrometer. And optical pyrometer is of type disappearing filament optical pyrometer. Then second type of pyrometer is total radiation pyrometer. Then we will learn about solar constant. We will see how to measure temperature of the sun. And finally, we will learn about pyrheliometer. And there are again subtopics, some angstrom pyrheliometer, water flow pyrheliometer, water style pyrheliometer. Okay, and here are the reference books, the list of reference books which you can consider for further studies. Okay, so as I told you before also, these books are written by foreign authors as well as Indian authors. If you look at this the third book is quite easy to understand and very well written for this content. Okay, so let us start with the first topic of today's lecture, that is pyrometer. What is pyrometer? Actually, if you consider the word pyrometer, it is made by two different words. Okay, one is pyro, that the origin of this word is from Greek civilization, and that meaning is fire. In Greek language, pyro means fire, and meter is quite normal, that meant for measurement. Okay, so that together, any meter which is used to measure the fire or the temperature. So we can define pyrometer as a type of remote sensing thermometer that is used to measure the temperature of a surface without contacting it. Okay, actually this pyrometer was developed long back, and it was first designed to denote a device that is capable of measuring temperature of objects which are above incandescence. Incandescence means the objects which are brighter to the human eye, which we can see by our eyes. But nowadays, after development of science and research, the pyrometer are developed which can sense the devices which are not actually bright to human eye, but they have some temperature. Okay, there are two different types of pyrometer. One is optical pyrometer and second is radiation pyrometer. The principle of these two are slightly different to each other. Here in this picture, you can see the device which was developed long back. And if you consider today's pyrometer also, these days we are going through corona, right? And for the measurement of temperature in each mall, in each crowded places, you can see there is a person holding this kind of instrument, and that is actually a kind of pyrometer without touching, although the principle is slightly different from the traditional one, from the conventional one. The today's devices, they are using some infrared signal and laser light. Okay, so the principle is slightly different, but the purpose is very same. Now we will see these pyrometers one by one regarding their construction and their operating principle. So the first one is optical pyrometer, and the type is also known as disappearing filament optical pyrometer. This was first designed by three scientists. One is Holborn, second is Kurzbaum, and third is Henning. This is a very simple structure pyrometer. You can see in the image, it consists of a telescope. This is a normal telescope, and the only difference between the conventional telescope and the telescope used in this device is that the cross wires are replaced by filament of an electric lamp. We are using normally here, it is a cross wire from where we can see the objects, right, from this eyepiece. But that cross wire is replaced by filament lamp, which can be glow by the use of battery. This filament can be heated with the help of external battery. Okay, and the current passing through it can be adjusted by a rheostat. Here we use the rheostat as a external circuit, and this is the meter to measure the current. Okay, now these are the external circuit. In the telescope, as you know, we have two lenses. One is eyepiece lens and another one is objective lens. We can use these lenses to adjust the focus and to observe the radiation respectively. Okay, this is the heat source which is emitting radiation. The radiation pass through inside this and goes through here. We can observe from eyepiece. Okay, and one more thing we use here, we use a red glass filter so that we can see this filament burning, filament glowing clearly through eyepiece. So we use the filter between the filament and eyepiece. Okay, now how it works, the all the heated sources, the radiation from this heated sources are allowed to enter the objective lens, and then they focus on the filament, or then they go to eyepiece. Now if we adjust the position of telescope, the radiation is focused on filament. We have to adjust the position of that telescope so that we can clearly see the filament and this heat source radiation. Now when we adjust this, the filament is clearly visible against the background. Background means the radiation which is coming through objective lenses. Okay, now since the radiation is going through the filament, we have to adjust the current through filament so that it begins to glow. Okay, and after some time, when we increase the current, the filament becomes invisible against the image of bright hole. Okay, the filament will be stopped visible. Okay, then the red glass filter, what it does, it does help in obtaining perfect matching for monochromatic radiation. So it filter out all the other wavelengths, it allow only red color wavelength so that we get the clear image of that filament. Right, now the current passing through the filament, since we are adjusting the current, when the filament disappeared completely, that current should be noted. Sorry. Okay. So that current should be noted, and because brightness or heat energy emitted per square centimeter should be the same in two cases. One is from the radiation and another whatever we are supplying from here. These two should be very same, and that's why the temperature of the source from which radiations are coming is the same as that of filament. When it is invisible, that time the temperature of this and the temperature of this filament should be very same. Okay, and that is the principle which we use to measure the temperature of that unknown heat source. For measuring the unknown source, first actually this instrument should be calibrated with a known temperature source. That means we can use some known temperature like 100 degree or something, and we can calibrate this instrument for this current. So for each known temperature, we can note down the current from here, and then we can calibrate this instrument according to that curve, so that every time when we measure the current, we can directly get the value of the temperature of heat source from that curve, right, from the graph. A graph is plotted between the current and temperature, so the temperature of known source and the current, that will give you the temperature for a particular value of current passing through the filament. Okay, and the corresponding unknown temperature can be easily determined, or directly we can calibrate the emitter here to measure temperature of this heat source directly, unknown heat source directly. Okay, so this is all working, and the construction of this appearing filament optical pyrometer. Now we will go to another type of pyrometer, that is total radiation pyrometer, and this was first devised by Ferri. We have seen the black body also, which was made by Ferri. So Ferri is famous scientist who worked a lot on the radiation topics. That's why he developed this instrument, and it is also used to measure the total energy of radiation of any wavelength. It can measure the radiation from any wavelength. What is the structure? What is the construction of this? It actually consists of one concave mirror. This you can see M. This is the concave mirror, and that is made of copper, which is polished by nickel on the surface, on the front surface. Front surface is which one? This side, not this side, because radiation is coming through this side. Okay, now E is an eyepiece fitting at the pole of mirror through a hole. Okay, here it is a, this is a kind of tube. Here we have fitted our eyepiece to see the radiation, to see the images. Now second is D is a diaphragm, which is placed in front of mirror. That mirror, it is placed here, and the position of M, this concave mirror, can be adjusted with the help of rack and pinion arrangement, that is here P. Okay, now the next thing is S, that is a metal strip which is painted black to make it black body. Okay, on the side facing the mirror. So these are the mirror. On this side it should be painted by black color to make it black body. Okay, now this is connected to the thermocouple. One of the junction of a thermocouple T is connected to S, and another one is connected to galvanometer, right? This one you can see here, this is galvanometer to see the deflection due to the radiation. Now we use another part, that is Q, which is known as shield, so that this radiation should not go on the other side directly. It should follow the path. It should go to mirror first, then it should reflect and focus on this metal strip, and because of that only there should be a deflection. It should not pass through directly on this side. Okay, to protect that we use a shield that is named here as Q. Now when the radiation is incident on the mirror, the focused image falls on the opening of T. So the radiation is going on this part. Due to this incident radiation falling on S, the galvanometer shows a deflection. Here you can see a deflection when the radiation falls on this strip. Okay, now to focus the image accurately, the diaphragm D is made of two semicircle mirrors, okay, inclined at some angle to each other. When this diaphragm D is viewed through the eyepiece, that looks like a perfect circle. Okay, very nice circle. You can see here in the image first. If the focus is not right, the half circle will be shown like this. They are not perfectly fit to each other, so there should the adjustment is needed to make the fine circle. Okay, the focus is directly visible through this circular image. Okay, if focusing is not proper, the two halves will appear displaced as shown in this second figure, right? Now the image formed on D should cover the aperture of this lenses. Okay, the reading of that galvanometer of thermocouple, that is connected through thermocouple, is totally independent of the distance of the source, provided the aperture of D is completely filled by the image of source. So the source can be anywhere, can be placed anywhere. There is no effect of the distance between source and the intensity, or on the deflection of galvanometer. The only condition is that the aperture of D should be completely filled by the image of source, that circular image. Okay, the reading of galvanometer depends only on the intensity of that image which is visible in eyepiece. If the distance of source is doubled, if we make the double distance, then the amount of radiation received by the mirror become half. It is directly relation. Then if it become sorry, not half, the amount of radiation received by the mirror become 1/4. But at the same time, the area of that image formed by through D will also be reduced to 1/4. That means that will balance each other. So the intensity of the image remains same because of this fact. Okay, this is all about our pyrometer, total radiation pyrometer. This is working principle and the construction of total radiation pyrometer. Now we will go to solar constant. As you know that sun is the source of heat radiation. Okay, it emits the heat radiation in all the direction, and out of this all the heat radiation, our earth can receive only a fraction of total energy, right? Because the radiation comes through the atmosphere, which absorb a part of heat radiation, and also the presence of air or cloud or dust particles, they also scatter the heat and light radiations that is coming from sun. So from the total quantity of heat radiation the earth received is the radiation received by earth is only like maybe 40%, 50%, or 80%, depending on the condition of atmosphere. If there are a lot of clouds, the radiation amount will be reduced. Okay, and if there is more dust particles, that will also reduce the total radiation received by earth. So from the quantity of total heat radiation received by the earth, it is possible to estimate the temperature of sun. We can calculate the temperature of sun by the total radiation received by the earth. And for measuring that, we need to measure the radiation amount. Okay, so to determine the value of a constant that is known as solar constant, some ideal conditions are taken into consideration. And for that solar constant, we need to define that solar constant. And how it can be defined? It is the amount of heat energy which is absorbed per minute by the square centimeter of a perfectly black body surface. We are considering that earth is a perfect black body surface, or we can imagine some black body, we can construct some black body, and that amount of total heat energy that is absorbed by the square centimeter of that particular black body, placed at a mean distance of the earth from the sun, because everything whatever we will put here on the earth, it will be at a mean distance, right? In the absence of any atmosphere, we are considering the ideal condition, that there is no atmosphere between the sun and earth, the surface being held perpendicular to the sun's rays. So there is another condition, that surface of black body should be perpendicular. So this is just a definition way, because everything is fulfilling here. What it is saying, first condition, it should be placed at a mean distance of earth. So definitely we will keep the black body anywhere on the earth, it will be at mean distance, right? Now we are considering in the absence of atmosphere, we are just assuming this. Okay, to define any constant, we always consider the ideal condition. So that's why we are assuming there is no atmosphere between sun and earth. The last condition is the surface should be held perpendicular to the sun's rays. So definitely the distance is too much between sun and earth. So that's why anything keeping at the earth, it will be almost perpendicular to the sun's rays. So we are considering this to define solar constant. Now to measure the solar constants, the instruments are known as pyrheliometers. Pyrheliometers are the instrument which is used to measure solar constant. The heat energy absorbed by a known area in a fixed time is found with the help of pyrheliometer. Okay, we can eliminate the effects of absorption by the atmosphere by measuring, because if we measure the value of solar constant at various altitude of the sun on the same day, right? If we measure this like at one place, and then we will go at some height, we will go some height, then we can measure this solar constant at different heights, and in that way we can eliminate the effect of absorption by the atmosphere. We can calibrate somehow to eliminate this effect of absorption by the atmosphere, and that's how it works, this pyrheliometer. Now we will see the formula for solar constant. If for example S is the observed solar constant and S naught is the true solar constant, right? S naught is the true solar constant, means in the perfect condition, in the ideal condition, right? And Z is the altitude of the sun, or we can call it angular elevation. Then the formula for the solar constant is given by S equals to S0 a to the power sec Z. Now if we take log of this formula, it will become log S equals to log S naught plus sec Z into log A. Here A is a constant. Now we can plot a graph between log S at the y-axis and sec Z at the x-axis. Now this will become very simple equation of a straight line. So y equals to m into x plus c. So this is just a straight line. So we can produce a graph to meet the y-axis. If it meet at the y-axis, that gives the value of intercept c. If we put the value x equals to 0, then y equals to c. That will give you the intercept when the value x is 0. So the intercept on the y-axis gives the value of log s naught, right? From the value of log s naught, the value of s naught, or we can say the solar constant, can be calculated. Okay, the value obtained varies between 1.90 to 2.60 calories per square centimeter per minute. Okay, these are the values which is already evaluated using several experiments. Right, now we will use the solar constant to measure the temperature of sun. You already know that sun consists a central hot portion, right? And after that there is a photosphere. The temperature of central part is very high, that is order of 10 to the power 7 Kelvin, very high. But the photosphere around this has a temperature about 6000 Kelvin, and that's why the temperature of sun is considered as 6000 Kelvin. Okay, and this temperature is known as the effective temperature of sun. Now let us consider that sun is a perfect black body radiator. Okay, now considering this, we can calculate the temperature of sun. Let us assume that the mean distance of sun from the earth be capital R, and S is the solar constant. So the total amount of heat energy received by the sphere of radius r in 1 minute will be 4 pi r square into S. S is the solar constant, and now the area of total sphere will be 4 pi r square. So if we multiply, we will get the total amount of heat energy received by that sphere in 1 minute. Now if we consider that small r is the radius of sun, then the total amount of heat energy radiated by 1 square centimeter surface of the sun in 1 minute will be this amount divided by the area of surface of sun, and that area will be given by 4 pi r square, 4 pi small r square. So we can divide it and we will find the value of that energy, heat energy. E equals to 4 into pi r square into S divided by 4 pi small r square. You can see here, if we adjust this, 4 pi will cancel out, We can take r upon small r to the power 2 into s. Okay, now we will see, we know these values. Actually, the mean distance from sun to earth is almost this one, 148.48 into 10 to the power 7 kilometer, and the radius of sun is already known, that is 6.928 into 10 to the power 5 kilometer. So the mean value s is also calculated already at different elevations, okay, different altitudes. So S is equals to 1.94 calories per centimeter square per minute. By putting these values in this equation, E equals to R upon R square into S, we get the value something like this. Now we already know the Stephen's law that gives E equals to sigma into T to the power 4. We know the value sigma, that is 5.75 into 10 to the power minus 5 divided by 4.2 into 10 to the power 7 ergs per centimeter square per second. That is a Stephen constant, right? We have already learned about this Stephen law and Stephen constant. So by putting this, we get the equation E equals to this one into T to the power 4. Now see, this is also the value of E, and this is again the value of E. If we compare these two values, what we get is 5.75 into 10 to the power minus 5 divided by 4.2 into 10 to the power 7 into T to the power 4 equals to this amount. By solving this expression, we get the temperature of sun, and that is coming 5730 Kelvin. Although the temperature is, this is an approximation, right? And which is slightly less than the actual temperature which is considered for sun, that was 6000 Kelvin. The actual temperature of sun is actually higher than this value, but this is just an approximation, and the effective temperature of the sun acting as a black body radius. There should be some other factors also, but this is quite close if we consider in consideration of 6000 Kelvin. Now we can consider this temperature of sun by the use of Bean's displacement law. And what Bean's displacement law says, lambda maximum into T equals to constant, and the value of constant we have already seen, 0.2892. Now we know the wavelength of radiations for which the energy is maximum, lambda maximum, is the space in the specimen is given by 4900 into 10 to the power minus 8 centimeter. This is already known from the visible spectrum. This is the maximum value. Now substituting this value in this equation, what we get, T equals to 5902 Kelvin. This is more close the actual value of 6000 Kelvin, right? 6000 Kelvin. So these are the methods to measure the temperature of sun. Now we will see how to measure the radiation. We already know that sun is the main energy source on earth, right? If we use this fact, the production of energy can be done through solar energy harvesting. We are actually now employing this solar energy to get our energy needs, to meet our energy needs, right? We are using solar panels and we are converting this to electricity. So life is constant, life is sustainable on earth because sun can provide sufficient heat energy for us, sufficient heat energy to keep our earth warm, okay? And this energy is in the form of electromagnetic radiation, okay? This radiation are known as solar radiations, right? This solar radiation reaches the earth through the atmosphere, and some part of it is absorbed by the atmosphere by the phenomena of reflection, by the phenomena of scattering. So that means the the total energy which starts from sun is reduced when it reaches to earth. This energy reduction is very important because more than 30% loss occur on sunshine, whereas 90% loss can occur on a cloudy day. If there are a lot of clouds, the radiation amount is very less, okay? So the utmost radiation which contacts the surface of earth almost should be below 80% in any case. By the reflection or scattering or absorption, it can be reduced. In any case, it cannot be more than 80% what it is started from the surface of sun. So that means to measure these energy, solar energy, there should be some instrument designed and that can be done by the instruments like pyrheliometer. Okay, these are the pyrheliometer. Now we will see what is the pyrheliometer. The pyrheliometer is a type of instrument which is used to measure the direct beam of sunlight or solar radiation. Right now, if you see, the structure is very similar to a telescope. Actually, this instrument can work on the tracking phenomena. Okay, it can move according to the sun. It can follow the sun continuously. It is responsive. It can measure the wavelengths ranging from 280 nanometer to 3000 nanometer, and the units for irradiations are watt per meter square. This is the unit to measure the radiation. Okay, these instruments are especially used for weather monitoring and climatological research purposes. Right now, if you see the structure, it is very similar to telescope because it is a lengthy tube. Here you have one lens. Okay, there is maybe a quartz glass also. Okay, by using this tube we can spot the lens towards the sun. This part is always towards the sun to calculate the radiance. Okay, the lens can be pointed in the direction of sun, and then the solar radiation will flow throughout the tube and reach to the bottom part of this pyrheliometer, where the last part includes a black object at the bottom that is kind of black body, which can absorb the radiation and give the current value or the power value by converting it to electric signal. Okay, so here is the construction and working principle. The irradiance of solar enters into this device through a crystal quartz window, right? So that's what the lens is made of. This is crystal quartz window. This is very easy to find everywhere. It is the very inexpensive material. We can make this very easily. And through this window, the radiation directly reach onto a thermopile, so that this energy can be changed from heat energy signal to electrical signal, and that can be easily recorded by some instrument. There, the calibration is needed before the actual measurement. A calibration factor can be applied once changing the millivolt signal to a corresponding radiant energy flux, and the unit, as I already told, the unit is watt per meter square. Okay, this kind of information can be used to increase isolation map in a solar energy measurement that is received on a specified surface region in a specified time to change around the globe. The isolation factor for a specific area is very useful when we set up the solar panels on our house or any other commercial places. Right, here is the circuit diagram of this pyrheliometer. The circuit diagram is very simple. Here it includes two equal strips, S1 and S2. The area of these strips are A. Here we use a thermocouple where the thermocouple, the junction, I mean the one junction of that thermocouple can be connected to S1 and the other is connected to S2. A galvanometer is placed in between of these two, S1 and S2, through the thermocouple. Okay, the S2 strip is connected to a exterior electrical circuit, where we have placed the voltmeter, where we have placed the rheostat and the ammeter to control the current flowing through this circuit. Okay, now how it works: when both the strips are protected from the radiation of solar, then there should be no deflection in the galvanometer. If we cover these two strips by some means, like here we have shown some shadow M, that is one sheet which is covering the surface of S2 strip. Similarly, if we cover this strip also, there will be no deflection in this galvanometer. But if we allow one strip to be exposed by the solar radiation, then and cover the other strip by some shadow, then there will be a deflection in galvanometer. That's what we have written. Now, as one strip is exposed to the solar radiation, while S2 strip is protected with a cover like M. Now when S1 strip gets heat radiation from the sun, then strip temperature will be increased, and if the strip temperature will be increased and S2 strip temperature will remain same, then there should be some deflection in galvanometer. Now to balance this difference, we allow some current to be supplied through strip S2. Then we increase the current slowly and we allow the galvanometer deflection to be zero again. Okay, there should be no deflection in galvanometer by adjusting the that current value. Now again both the strips are at the same temperature by flowing the current into S2 strip from the external source. Now, if the heat radiation amount occurred over the unit area within the unit time on S1 strip is Q and the absorption coefficient is small a, then the heat radiation amount which is absorbed through the strip S1 will be given by Q into capital A, the surface area, into small a, that is absorption coefficient. So in addition, the heat generated in unit time within the S2 strip, because this was generated through the solar radiation and that was balanced, the temperature was increased of this strip. To increase the temperature similar to this strip, we flow some current through this circuit, and that value of current can give the power to this strip. That value of power is equals to V into I. That power is equals to Vi, or that will be the temperature which is supplied to S2 strip. That will be given Vi. So because at the time when galvanometer has no deflection, these two values should be equal. That means Q into A into small a should be equals to Vi. And from this formula, we can get the value of Q, which is equals to Vi upon A into small a. We can get all the values of right hand side factor, and from there we can measure the value of heat radiation that are occurred over the unit area within the unit time on strip S1. So that will give you the direct value of radiation that is received by strip S1. That is the principle of pyrheliometer. And the other type of pyrheliometer which I was talking about, the principle is quite similar, but there are some modifications which are done in this, so that is not really important, and that are just a engineering part. So the principle is quite similar, that's why I'm not discussing it here. If you want to study about that, you can go through the books which are mentioned in the beginning. Now we will see some of the quiz which we need to solve to judge the knowledge which we have got from this unit of radiation. So the first question of today's quiz is, Rayleigh-Jean's law of radiation applies to a smaller wavelength, applies to longer wavelength, applies to all wavelengths, or does not apply to any wavelength. We know that Rayleigh-Jean's law of radiation is valid for longer wavelength. At shorter wavelength, it gives phenomena of catastrophe, ultraviolet catastrophe. So the right answer for this question is option B. Second is, a perfect black body is that which is totally black in color. Second option, absorbs all the radiations incident on it. Third option is made of ideal gas named Krishnika, and the fourth option is can radiate all its energy. So of course, from the definition, perfect black body is which absorbs all the radiations incident on it. So the option B is the right answer. Third question is related to Stephen Boltzmann's law. What this law is saying, E equals to sigma T naught to the power 4, E equals to sigma T square, or E equals to sigma T square minus T naught square, or E equals to sigma into T to the power 4 minus T naught to the power 4. So the right answer is option D. The next question is, electromagnetic radiation is emitted by all bodies at all temperatures, all bodies at 100 degrees centigrade, all bodies at absolute zero, or only a few bodies at all temperatures. So definitely all the bodies at any temperature can emit electromagnetic radiation. So the right answer is option A. Next question is, for a perfect black body, the absorptive power is 0, 0.5, 1, or infinite. So from the definition of perfect black body, that is the body which can absorb all the radiation incident on the surface of it. So that means it is 100%, or we can write the absorptive power is 1 for the perfect black body. So right answer is option C. The next question is, Wien's displacement law is expressed by the equation lambda m into t equals to constant, lambda m into t square equals to constant, lambda m t to the power 3 equals to constant, or lambda m under root t equals to constant. So the right answer is option A, lambda m into t equals to constant. This is the right answer. The next question is, the absolute temperature of a perfect black body is increased to twice its value. The rate of emission of energy per unit area will be 2 times, 4 times, 8 times, or 16 times. We know the Stephen's law, E is proportional to T to the power 4. So if there is an increase of twice in the temperature, that means T will be equals to 2T, right? So that means the increase in energy, or the rate of emission of energy, will be increased by 2 to the power 4. 2 to the power 4 means 16 times. So that will be the right answer, option D. The wavelength of thermal radiation is 1000 to 2000 angstrom, 4000 to 8000 angstrom, 2000 to 4000 angstrom, or 1000 to 9000 angstrom. So the right answer is, because thermal radiation or electromagnetic spectrum covers the area from a part of ultraviolet spectrum, complete visible spectrum, and complete infrared region. So the total wavelength region is 4000 to 8000 angstrom. That means the right answer is option B. The next question is, the energy of a photon is given by h nu, 2h nu, 3h nu, or 4h nu. So the right answer, because this is the smallest unit of energy packet or energy bundle or quanta, which is known as photon, that means the energy is h nu. The right option is option A. The next question is, every body emits radiations continuously to its surroundings, and at the same time it receives the radiations from its surroundings. This statement is related to the heat exchange principle, which is given by Provost. So the right answer is Provost theory, option C for this question. So I hope you have learned all about the measurement technique for the temperature and the radiation. You have learned about the pyrometer and perheliometer. Uh, I hope everything is clear. If still you have some doubts, you can ask by commenting on the YouTube video here. All the videos related to radiation or other topics of thermodynamics are given on our YouTube channel, School of Applied Science, Suresh Gyan Vihar University. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for listening.